Welcome back to WRPL. It's the podcast where we talk about all the things we were watching, reading, playing, and listening to. My name's Ben.
And I'm Steve.
How's it going, Steve?
It's going well, Ben. Excited to switch up the locations with
Yeah, new location, much later time, different day, just all types of screwy things. Happy Memorial Day. And to everyone who had a nice day off, happy Memorial Day to you too.
To the troops.
To the fallen troops.
Yes.
Veterans Day is to former and active troops. These are for all the dead ones. All right, today we've been waiting for so long to talk about this. Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga.
I believe so, yes.
We're not really going to talk about much of anything else. I do want to bring up a few things, though.
Bring it on up, Ben.
First off, we had a death. Morgan Spurlock.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, the creator of Where in the World is Osama bin Laden and Super Size Me.
I'm ashamed to admit I never saw Super Size Me.
It's good. I've been hearing things of, well, he was kind of like a raging alcoholic during the time, and it may have affected some of the things he was doing. But if you want to, I own it. If you want to borrow it, it's a weird movie that I own. But
I mean, I imagine it doesn't hold up anymore, considering it's over 20 years old, and McDonald's, I imagine, has changed a lot. And also, I don't eat at McDonald's ever, so it doesn't.
True.
It's not like I'm gonna go well, this changed my mind on McDonald's.
And that's one of the things they bring up. They're like, well, what if I don't eat McDonald's? And yeah, you could apply this to Wendy's or Burger King or anything. It's just at that time, McDonald's had the Super Size Me drinks and fries, which were enormous, movie theater size cups. They're so damn big.
After the movie came out, they eliminated the super size.
Oh yeah,
right?
because of it. Absolutely. It's great because he talks to a lot of different companies, cookie makers and stuff, and they openly admit yeah, we're part of the problem, but
we don't supersize our stuff.
So R.I.P. I think it was cancer, prostate cancer.
I don't know if it's prostate. I don't know
or
if it's
colon
cancer.
Or something, some sort of cancer. That sucks.
What if it was the McDonald's that did it?
What if it was what?
The McDonald's that did it and just finally.
Oh yeah, it was just too much.
Oof,
it's disgusting. It's 30 days of McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He has to eat everything on the menu once. It's really gross, but it was a fun watch.
Yeah, the only thing I know about it other than it eliminated the supersize was that I think it was day 3 he began throwing up.
Yeah, it's just you eat those fries so many times and you can't do it anymore, and he pukes it all up. And then he talks to a guy who's eating a Whopper every day for 30 years, and he's a tall skinny dude. So
people are weird, man.
Yeah. There is only really one thing I want to talk about, and I doubt you're going to watch it, but do you know Jenny Nicholson? Do you know that name?
I do. Is that the YouTube?
She does make YouTube
the Star
videos.
Wars stuff?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
She is the best video essayist there is. She just does extreme deep dives of things, and it'll be about stuff that I don't care about. She had a 2.5-hour video essay on the Vampire Diaries. Never seen a single episode. Captivating. She talks about My Little Pony, Star Wars, fan fiction, just all types of stuff. She doesn't post on YouTube very much because she has her own Patreon that has 1 million subscribers. And
good for her.
Yeah, she puts most of her stuff on there. Smaller form essays and things that she wants to talk about. All of her Star Wars stuff is good. She's a big theme park person. And her recent one is the spectacular failure of the Star Wars Hotel, or the Galactic Star Cruiser, and what worked, what didn't work, her experience going to it, and why it shut down after only 18 months.
Is that a new thing?
Yeah, they made a Star Wars themed hotel, and it was interactive, and you could follow a smuggler storyline or the First Order storyline, and help them smuggle things. And
so it's a ride in the place you're staying. Kind of.
Yeah, it's
not like a ride, but you know what I mean. Just
it's an interactive show. Yeah. It's more like murder mystery dinner.
Gotcha.
Sort of thing.
Okay. Sounds neat.
And hypothetically, this should be the coolest thing in the world. It's 4 hours long, her essay, and
I'm watching it.
It's amazing. She broke it down. It's you spend you get there in the afternoon, so you have a half day, then you get a full day, and then a half day when you leave. So it's just kind of like a 2-day thing.
Yeah.
And they got like the smallest room, the cheapest things they can do, and it was like $6,000. She figured out
Wait, $6,000 a night?
$6,000 for the experience for the 2 days. It broke down to $2 a minute per person.
What?
Yeah. And
Who was this for?
super big Star Wars fans, people who want to throw away tons of money, clout chasers, things like that. And goes through all the ups and downs of what was good, what was bad. And spoilers, by the end of it, she's like, no, it's not worth it. Because most of the interactive stuff is running around scanning QR codes in an app that is supposed to talk to you and give you missions and tell you when to show up at places. Then you show up to it and they've already done their little fun story thing. And it was like buggy as shit. So she really didn't get on any sort of one story path or another. But yeah, she said all in all,
you get to like fight with lightsabers or shoot
you
blasters.
Don't. No, but there is like lightsaber training, and you're standing in front of a thing, and it shoots a quote unquote laser at you, and you block it with your sword, and there's little things like that. And she said if you're from 8 to 12. This is probably one of the most fun things you'll ever do, and you'll have memories that'll last a lifetime. Anybody else?
If you're the people who can afford to do it,
yeah, it's not really worth it. And then they were on the cheap end. You could get up to $8,000-$10,000 for this if you want the bigger rooms. It's a great watch. I had to watch it over like 5 days, just 20-minute increments on my lunch, but it's well worth it. And really, anything of hers is worth it. The first thing I ever watched of hers, it was during COVID. And because she had COVID, she watched all the Land Before Time movies and ranked them. And
isn't there like 9 of them?
No, there's like 14 of them.
Jesus.
And ranks them on, which is the good, which is the bad. And I was like, wow. This girl knows her stuff, and she really does. When it comes to lore about theme parks and old rides and everything, she's the best in the biz, really. But yeah, Jenny Nicholson, watch anything of hers.
I won't, but I appreciate the effort.
But you should, like, her just talking about why some of the newer Star Wars movies are terrible is hilarious. It's well worth your time for some of the other stuff. 4 hours, I get it. That's a big commitment. But even the things that are an hour or less are pretty fun. And she has some shorter ones that are only like 15 or 20 minutes. So
I don't smoke cigarettes, but I have kids now, Ben. I would be lucky to have a cigarette break, So if I saw a 4-hour video, it'd probably be over 18 months.
Yeah.
So.
All right. You want to get to our main topic?
No, I want to get to our...
Oh, yeah, our
side project here.
We're going to actually consume something. We haven't consumed a thing on the show since the One Chip Challenge, 2 years ago.
And shocking, we're back to spicy chips.
Yeah, but this is simple. This is Doritos Baja Fiery Mango.
So I love mango flavored things, and I love spice. One of my go-tos at Buffalo Wild Wings is
Mango habanero.
Mango habanero, which I always regret because it does make me sweat, and I'm like, this is too hot. It's like as hot as I'll go before I'm like, I can't go any higher than this.
Where is it on the scale? Is it?
It's I'd say it's at the 75% mark.
Okay.
It's past the
medium.
Yeah, it's like three habaneros or whatever.
Okay.
4 is the highest. It's
Okay.
at the 3, I think.
Yeah, I like the heat of their stuff, but I'm a garlic parmesan man. I'm there for flavor and not necessarily heat. So
I'm Asian Zing, which is on the sweeter side.
Yeah.
That's my number one. But anyway,
well, I don't like mango, but I like Baja Blast. So let's see what this is like.
Also, I just want to point out, art-wise, I really enjoyed this packaging. I think it's fun.
The colors are great. The orange and the teal.
Volcano, shark. I don't know. I'm digging it. Orange wave, very cool.
Let's do it. Ooh, ASMR. Okay, pretty standard looking Dorito.
Mm-hmm. All right, ready?
1, 2, 3. That first tasted like Trix. It was fruity right up front.
I gotta say, I like them a lot. Now, I don't know if I'd rank them over spicy nachos. Spicy nachos my number one, but I like them.
I don't.
One of my favorite combos is sweet and spicy.
Sure.
And sweet and spicy, it's not too overpowering. You do get that. I'm not sure if I'm necessarily getting mango too much, but I am getting.
But it is fruity.
But it is fruity and sweet.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think that one's for me.
Good, more for me. All right. Well, I won't chew for the rest of the episode, but
Yeah.
yeah. All right, folks. If you see Doritos Fiery Mango at Wawa's, because I haven't seen them anywhere else, I recommend picking them up.
Well, okay, 1 through 10. Or 1 through 5. We'll keep it simple. Don't talk with your mouth full.
All right. Where, 5 being the highest, I enjoy them. I'll give it a 4. I like them more than Cool Ranch. I think Cool Ranch is super overrated.
Nah, Cool Ranch is one of the kings.
I know everyone loves it, but
I think more people like Nacho than Cool Ranch, but I'll take Cool Ranch over pretty much any other flavors. I'd give that like a 2, maybe a 2.5. It's not gross, but
I'd say Cool Ranch 3, standard Dorito, and this at 4, and then spicy nacho is just my favorite.
Ooh.
And then if you ask me about the other flavors, I'm not familiar enough to rank.
Yeah, there's so many of them. All right. Ready, steady, go!
Good transition.
So Furiosa Mad Max Saga is coming out, what is it, 9 years after the last one? And that one was 30 years after Thunderdome.
Yeah, this is an interesting franchise in terms of spacing of episodes.
The first 3 came out, in fine succession.
Mm-hmm.
There was enough time. Do you like that original trilogy?
I've actually only ever seen the first one, and it's been a long time. I don't remember if I saw Fury Road, and I was like, let me check out Mad Max one day. I remember, I want to say I liked the first one, even though it is definitely dated, but
Yeah.
I think it still kind of holds up in terms of stunts and
Sure.
you can see that there is some talent here.
Yes,
but
because
it is just bare bones story. There's not much to it.
Yeah,
and it is.
Max isn't even like the lead dude. Like he has a buddy named Goose, who's kind of the main guy through most of it.
And it's like post-apocalyptic, but everything's still kind of it's functioning.
We just got to the apocalypse, and we're pushing through. We're trying to hold it together. There's still stores. He's still a cop. They're trying to maintain order, and it's not until Road Warrior we get kind of.
I hear Road Warrior is the best one.
So that's the original 3. Yes, that's considered the best one.
So I'd like to watch Road Warrior. But
Thunderdome is more closely related to Fury Road in style.
Yeah,
really crazy characters and big costumes, but half of that movie it's like a Peter Pan story with all these kids, and it's not as interesting. I don't hate any of them, but I don't really care about Mad Max. It's not until Fury Road that I actually gave a shit about any of these, which I feel bad for this movie because it has to follow Fury Road. No matter what, you're not gonna get better than perfection.
Yeah, going into this movie, I knew, and I never want to go into a movie knowing what I'm gonna get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would bet a bunch of money that Fury Road was going to be better than this movie.
Yeah.
Because Fury Road's, it could very well be in my top 10 movies of all time. Yeah. I love Fury Road.
It's one of the greatest action movies.
Fucking great.
And the fact that it did not win Best Picture. God, how amazing would it be for the Academy if they had that on their record of that was the Best Picture of that year? What beat it?
I don't remember. I mean, Fury Road was cleaning up on every category except for screenplay, which I get.
There's not much there.
It was screenplay, director, and then picture, but it won everything else,
especially costume and stuff. If there was an award instead of screenplay, it was storyboarding, it would probably work because you can't really script this that much. There's not a whole lot of dialogue. It is a visual movie more than anything else.
2015. Give me a hint. Oh, wait, no, Spotlight.
It was Spotlight?
Spotlight. That'd be I'm 90% sure.
Okay, give me a second. enter.
Because I think Birdman was 2014, Spotlight was 2015, because it was like the Keaton Sans or whatever.
Yeah, Spotlight.
Damn, I'm good.
Yeah, you're good. In Spotlight, it's a great movie.
Yeah, but who's talking about Spotlight now?
And like I watched it not too long ago for the first time. It's good, and it's something we've known, and those types of movies we've seen before. That investigative sort of discovering some atrocity, and it's very good. But there is nothing like Fury Road.
Yeah.
It is the most original, interesting, just bombastic, and super cool movie out there. And this movie was never going to beat it, but I'm totally fine with that because this movie isn't trying to beat it.
No.
It's not saying let's just replicate the successes and the good things of that first one. There is a little part where it feels a little Fury Road-ish.
Sure. I mean, I think it'd be weird if they were like, well, we took Fury Road and we turned it up to 11. It was like, Fury Road was already 11. Yeah. If you turn it up any higher, it would just be nonsense.
Yeah.
It would be the Transformers movies.
Exactly. Yeah, that tornado, they would be fighting in the tornado the entire time.
Have you ever driven through a tornado? Well, you're about to.
Thinking about that, I remember seeing the trailer going, holy shit, that tornado thing looks pretty cool. And that's at the very beginning of the movie. They start the movie with a giant tornado.
That's maybe 2 minutes of the movie?
Yeah. Good stuff.
Anyway, we're not talking about Fury Road. I mean, we'll go back and forth to it.
You can't talk about this without.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be 29 years before Fury Road, I think is what I saw. But I think that's from...
Oh, well, yeah.
From the fall, not the fall of man, but from her leaving the green place to Fury Road, it's supposed to be 29 years.
From Anya Taylor-Joy to... Oh, well, from little girl to Anya Taylor-Joy is like 15, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the timeline is a little weird because by the end of this movie, we roll right into Fury Road. Mm-hmm. And am I really supposed to believe that Anya Taylor-Joy is the same person? I know there's just a big age gap. I would assume that there would have been another 10 years of plotting being with a Morton Joe before she decided to.
I have so many thoughts, Ben.
Yeah.
But well, let's start with Anya Taylor-Joy. Did you like her in this movie?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
I thought she was really good. And my roommate was saying she's so expressive with being unexpressive. Mm-hmm. She's very stoic in a lot of things.
Yeah.
But you can still see a lot of what she's trying to convey. I thought she was a great choice. It's hard to like, who else do you cast?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Anya Taylor-Joy on the red carpet, and she's like 95 pounds of blonde hair. She's just like the thinnest, littlest thing, and you wouldn't think she could kick ass. And Charlize Theron has proven herself that she can do action.
Yeah, there's
stuff.
not many like action heroines working today, but Charlize Theron is one of them.
But you put enough leather on her and some black grease on her face.
Put a sawed-off shotgun in there, and you're
it's
good to go.
Good enough. It's totally fine.
I mean, I don't know who else you would cast, and I think she did exactly what she was supposed to with the role.
Maybe a Florence Pugh or something?
Yeah, I mean...
There's people.
My only issue, I think, that I had with her in this movie, it just... Like, if you look back at Fury Road, it felt like... it was Mad Max, and Tom Hardy was Max, and he was in it the whole time. But really, like, Furiosa was the heart and soul of that movie, and, like, the character you cared about. Because, like, Tom Hardy was just, like, muscles... like just a body there.
Yeah, he was just kind of your POV character.
Yeah. So like when they're like, well, we're gonna make a movie about Furiosa, I was like, cool, I love Furiosa.
You already did, but sure, we'll see more of her.
And so I was like, all right, cool. But then it doesn't feel like she's really. It kind of, to me, it feels like Chris Hemsworth is the heart and soul of this movie in a weird way, and he's the bad guy.
And that's kind of the thing I saw where Mad Max is not the main character, Furiosa is. And in this one, Furiosa is not the main character because she doesn't even show up for like an hour of this movie. And when she showed up, I kind of just thought, oh yeah, she's in this. Yep. We could have really stuck with that young version and had even an additional movie in between. I was perfectly fine sticking with that very young version of her.
So this is the longest movie in the series. And I think what I compare these past two movies to is The Raid and The Raid 2. Because if you look at The Raid, the very first one, all it was pretty much a tight hour and a half of nonstop action with very small like breaks in between, with like very minimal story. They start at the bottom, they have to get to the top to defeat the bad guy.
Yep.
Mad Max Fury Road, very simple story. Have to get from point A to point B. There's just action all the way through, pretty much. It's a little bit more involved because there's a little bit more lore, and you have to explain post-apocalyptic versus just like modern day
gangs and mafias and stuff.
We've seen a billion like crime dramas. We've only ever seen 5 or 4 Mad Max movies at this point. And then Furiosa is like, okay, well, we can't replicate the action as well in the first one, so we'll like expand it with like world building and story and characters, very much like the Raid 2 did, which took the Raid and made it a 2.5 hour crime drama. The only difference is I feel like the Raid 2 kind of balanced that a little bit better, where they had great action and some like decent story, where like there's so much interesting story here that they just never went into. And Mad Max has always been kind of like short on story and character. In terms, it's like that's not what we're here for.
It's mostly just revenge.
It's where we're here for stunts and revenge. But there's like so much in this movie I wanted more time with.
Yeah, like
and it drove me crazy.
It was like, and then started the 40-day war, and then it was over.
12-second montage.
Now we're moving on. I agree with that. I heard it being compared to Kill Bill 1 and 2.
Okay.
Whereas the first one is the crazy 88 fight and all this insane gore and just tons of action. And then you get to Kill Bill.
So dialogue and character heavy.
And then Kill Bill Volume 2 is more backstory and stuff. So
I don't know if I agree with that, but I see what you're saying.
So, I mean, did you like this movie?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay.
I still enjoyed it. I just had... When... It's hard because... Obviously, Mad Max Fury Road, A+. This, I'd say, is probably like B+, because it's still a movie. Like I would tell everyone to go see this. I don't think this movie's going to make a bunch of money from what I'm seeing.
Oh,
and I
that's sad.
would still recommend it to people and go like, they don't make movies like this. He's the only one who's making shit like this, and it's so cool, and I highly recommend it. That being said, this still doesn't mean I'm not going to like pick it apart.
Yeah. I'll pick one of my favorite things.
And I'm not even going to pick apart the thing of like, all right, so there's Dementis, Chris Hemsworth character, and he's got this roaming army of like baddies who are just seemingly roaming around. It's like, where are they getting their gas? Because in this entire universe that we've only ever seen, Gastown has the gas. Yeah, like Gastown has the gas. Like, it's a perfectly working ecosystem. You need bullets. We're the bullet place. We're the gas place, you're the food and water place, and we all trade and we all live copacetic. Where the fuck were these guys living?
I could only assume they're taking it from people, but...
Sure, but where are those people going?
And you would think, oh, well, it's any of those people who are traveling between these 3 cities. But when they show up to the Citadel, they don't know the War Boys. They don't know any of these people.
Yeah.
So if they were robbing from them, they would get some sort of notion of who they are.
Yeah. And I know Australia is a very big place, and I don't know how you survive in the wasteland, but you drive far enough, you got to get to something. Unless you're just driving in circles.
And drive to the freaking coast, man. Why are you in the middle of Australia? If you need water, I know it's salt water, but you could figure out ways to distill it and things. Get to the coast. If I thought there was going to be any sort of green place, it would be closer to a main water source, not
typically,
right dab center in the outback.
But whatever. So I'm not even going to like mention that shit.
Sure. But let's talk about Chris Hemsworth. My roommate did not like his prosthetic nose and beard and everything.
What's her deal with noses? Because she had the problem with Bradley Cooper's nose too.
I think it's just since she knows it's fake, she notices it. That's just fine. Like with the young Anya Taylor-Joy, they digitally changed her face to look more like Anya Taylor-Joy. And then as time progresses, it got closer and closer to her, which that was not distracting to me at all.
No, not at all.
And I don't think Chris Hemsworth's nose was distracting either.
No.
I think it added so much to his character, especially with the way he talks.
Oh, I love the way he talks.
He's so funny in this. And I like that he is like such a badass, but he's so fucking incompetent. He wants all the power, but has no idea how to like run anything, and he just kind of like bites off way more than he could chew. But yeah, I love his look. He's fantastic in this.
Yeah, I I liked that. He kind of adopts her, and you see he's got this little stuffed animal thing. And you're like, what's the deal? Like, because all these like road warrior people or whatever, they're all wearing weird shit
Yeah.
for like seemingly no reason.
Mhm.
They've all got these like little character quirks or whatever. But clearly he's a bad guy, seemingly just from my kids were taken from me, and the wasteland's a terrible place. But now I'm just like the leader of this band of
You got to do
whoever.
what you got to do.
But here's a kid I can kind of like take under my wing,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're with her. She's with him for an undisclosed amount of time, not super long, and then they meet Immortan Joe, and they make a deal. And Immortan Joe like looks at her and is like, "I'll take the kid," and they're like, "Ew, gross." But Chris Hemsworth character doesn't want to do it, but then he's just like, "All right, well, I need water and food, and this is a fine deal. I barely know this kid." So it's like we don't see her. Chris Hemsworth character kills her mom.
Yeah.
And that sets off the chain of events. It's like, okay, my goal is to get revenge on this guy. But it's like there's a movie there where they can like kind of build a relationship where she's like, I know I hate you, but like maybe I learned some shit from you. But like they're together for 10 minutes, and then she's with Immortan Joe. But then she's with Immortan Joe for like 2 minutes, and then she's no longer in what she was bought for, I guess. Because she was originally, I guess, going to be a wife.
Yeah.
And then
At least he didn't say like, "Oh, you could be my next wife." He was saying, eventually, you can grow up to be one.
Sure.
So it's like, yeah, we're gross, and we're gonna force you to have.
There's not a lot of pretty women in the
yeah.
in the
but I'm not
wasteland,
gonna do it, too early.
Yeah.
But that was brought up to me. So she avoids what's his name, Erectus.
Rictus.
Rictus.
Rictus erectus.
Yes. And then she runs away. And then nobody goes, "Hey, where'd that new wife go?"
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, we just got one.
I can understand they just think she ran away or she jumped off the side and killed herself, but it's like no one questioned the new kid with a cover on their face for like a decade.
Yeah.
Who didn't speak. But whatever. But that was my thing. It's like, okay, so she joins Immortan Joe, and maybe it was explained in Fury Road, but I don't remember. I always felt like Furiosa and Immortan Joe kind of like had an understanding, where she's like, I don't like this dude, but like,
but I'm the best.
But I'm the best at this, and he kind of like respects me because I do this thing. So I thought, oh well, this is going to be the part of the movie where like Immortan Joe sees her potential as a driver, and it's just like, okay, well, you're not going to be my wife. You're going to like lead my war boys on the Fury Road, and they're like, I don't like you, Immortan Joe, but I'm going to like become your right hand and like learn skills and develop my whatever, so I can take down the guy who I really hate who killed my mom. But there's none of that. It's just kind of like I joined the team, and you don't even know I exist. It's like, so Immortan Joe is like almost unnecessary in this movie. There's just so much like you could have done with it, and just never felt like they went for it.
I don't think we needed a Immortan Joe. I don't think we needed her to lose her arm. It's one of those things, just like in Solo. Like, oh, well, how does he meet Chewbacca? Well, how does he get his gun? Like, do we really need to know these very specific things? We know she loses her arm at some point. I think this really should have been her with the Mentis the whole time doing other things. And there's hearing of the Citadel and things like that. So we can do another movie if we wanted to, or an animated movie, or a comic book, or something in between. I don't think we needed to go directly right up to Fury Road.
Yeah.
You could just open up this world a little bit more, because just having these 3 towns and that's it? Like, really? That's it? And then this wandering gang of biker dudes? It just feels like they're leaving potential on the table.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you have these 3 locations, and obviously things got bad. Some bad person acquired power and they took over. So it's like, I get you don't need backstories on who Morton Joe is or where he came from or why he fucking looks the way he does. Who cares? But if your focus is on character and story more than action in this one, I need something. Because then even when she joins the what do you call the big rig things again?
I mean, they're tractor trailers, like
No, but they have a specific
semi.
like in the Mad Max world, they're the whatever, the big rigs. Let's just go with that. She's like on the big rig team, and she meets Jack, and Jack is like the best in the business. He's the guy who takes all the product to all the different towns and always comes back, even though he gets attacked by raiders or whatever. He always comes back. And then they have like a romance,
Kinda.
It's
Or at least
just implied.
They're not absolute shits to each other like everybody is in this movie. They actually can sit and respect each other.
Yeah, I mean, you see them touch heads and
they don't even kiss or anything like that.
But they don't kiss. There's no sex scene, which I'm happy for.
Like there's that little pool of water. I expected showering with each other under the moonlight in some romantic thing. Nope, none of that.
So yeah, there's that maybe romantic plot, but I have no reason to be invested in Jack or like their relationship because one, I just met this guy, and two, he barely talks, and like it seems that the only thing that qualifies him to be a decent love interest is
war rig.
Thank you. The only thing that qualifies him to be a decent human being is he doesn't attempt to rape me. It's just
and I will give the movie, even though Morton Joe says you can be one of my wives, and Rictus is attracted to this little kid, it's not a main part. It's not like
we know how the wasteland works, but we don't need to show
Dementus didn't rape her.
Having
her all that time in a cage, he wanted to keep her because he lost his own kids. But in the hands of a different director, that would have gotten really lecherous.
So it's just you introduce all these characters and you expand the world, and like there's cool things here. I just want more. And maybe I'm in the minority because they're like, well, you just don't understand Mad Max movies. It's not about all that. But it's like, but why? But why?
And anyone who said like, oh, well, then it's because you haven't watched the other ones. Shut up. They have the most inconsistent lore and timeline. There's even a thought that Tom Hardy Max isn't the same Mel Gibson Max. That there's a little kid in Thunderdome who throws a boomerang that he saves. That is Tom Hardy Max, because Max is a legend now, and these are more of people telling the story of what Max was up to, not actually firsthand accounts. And so he has just adopted that name because the guy who played a Morton Joe plays Toe Cutter in one of them as a villain. There's a guy who flies like a plane in the second one, and then flies a plane in the third one, and it's the same actor, but they're different characters. Like, he is not concerned about continuity.
Sure.
So if anybody says like, oh, well, this doesn't line up, shut up. You don't know Mad Max. But it couldn't hurt to flush out lore. It just doesn't need to be the like, this is how she got her arm. We don't necessarily need that.
I mean, I think
I do like how she loses her arm.
But that was the thing. It's just like she loses her arm and just felt like like everything in this movie goes so fast.
Yeah.
As soon as you introduce something interesting, you're already past it in another 2 minutes. It's like the tire rolls over her arm. It's all fucked up. She gets chained up, and then she
Did she cut her arm off, or do you think it was enough damage that she just got
I think
separated?
She just ripped it off.
Okay.
Which I can't imagine.
Ooh.
Ugh, gross. But then it's like, all right, well, how are you going to get your arm? Luckily, there's this piece of metal machinery that kind of just already looks like an arm.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty good with prosthetics now, but in the apocalypse, I don't know if that's working. She's got a little lawnmower starter things, and
that was
little
cool.
cutters.
I really like that.
That felt like such a video game thing. Upgrading your arm.
I thought that was really awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just, I know she's never really relied on anybody, but that guy who gave her a car at the end, I kind of wished she developed a somewhat friendship with a Smeagol character guy who's just like, oh, I can fix your arm up for you, because her just coming back and just building her own arm in like 10 seconds, like, well,
that was
seem cool.
That was during the 40-day war, so she had 40 days to build her arm.
That, but I'm saying in terms of the movie, it was just like, I lost my arm, and 2 minutes later, or not even 2 minutes, 30 seconds later, I got a new arm, and we're just past it because you guys know that I'm going to get this arm.
Speaking of things that go by real quick, you notice Mad Max in this movie?
Yep.
So unnecessary, but it's small enough that it's not some great injustice of.
It was totally fine with it.
It's just there. Did he save her? Probably not. It was just.
I don't think so.
No, look at. He was just there, and he saw him. Yep, it's just one of those things. And it's not like he would remember this character, and she was too far away. It was just one of those funny things of, oh yeah, these two will eventually meet later. Moving on.
Yep.
I think that's fine.
Some fun things. I don't think it's the same character, but speaking of characters coming back, Josh Hellman, who was a war boy in the first movie, died, and now he plays Scrotus, one of the sons of Martin Joe.
Who's from the video game.
So I don't know if it's the same Scrotus or he's just reusing names.
Okay.
But Scrotus was a villain in the Mad Max game. And I looked it up because, like, do they even look somewhat like each other?
No,
they don't.
He's huge.
Scrotus is he looks more like Rictus than Scrotus.
Did your theater get a nice laugh when he said his name?
No one said a thing.
Yeah, our theater laughed.
But then the guy who gives Furiosa the car at the end is also supposedly Chumbucket from the game, who's the guy who like sits on top of your car and fixes everything. I was like, so wait, is the video game lore now?
I don't think it is
canon?
Because he's even said, like, George Miller kind of like talk shit about the video game. So I don't know.
I enjoyed the game for the most part.
You know,
I think I talked about it on this podcast.
I tried to play it and I was just like, this isn't really for me. But then after watching this movie, I'm like, I kind of want to go back and do it.
Honestly, the first, I think, not 5 hours of it, I would say, it's like not super exciting because you're just kind of like, once you like really kind of soup up your car and start getting some more upgrades, the game gets a lot better. But then at that time, you're kind of like, you've done so much of the same shit over and over again. But if it ultimately 7 out of 10, like I did enjoy my time playing that game, but it does get a little repetitive here and there and kind of like takes a minute to get into.
All right, let's talk about the scene that's kind of like Fury Road, where we get to see Jack, the most normal name guy in this whole thing.
Well, he's like Praetorian Jack.
Sure.
That's their...
Yeah, and I guess more in
the war rig drivers, the Praetorians.
Which, it's also kind of funny that her name's Furiosa, and that was her name. Like, her mom named her Furiosa, but they live in the, like, Garden of Eden, so you'd think she would have had, like, a nicer name. Furiosa sounds like the name she would adopt once she loses the arm or gets, dragged into all this, or Dementus gives it to her because he tries to make a move on her, she bites him, like, oh, you're a furious one. Something like that. Anywho, but that scene is a really fun scene because I feel they said, we gotta have something a little like Fury Road. We need to be able to do, the dangers of being on the road and why we gotta soup up the war rig and everything. And we get like paragliders coming in and guys with fans on their back, and parachutes.
It's like, we're not gonna have as many cars on the road as Fury Road, but we want to do what we did before, but this is like the one time we're gonna kind of do it bigger than before.
We're gonna at least do it different.
Yeah, because before we had the guys on swinging pendulums. This time we're gonna have dudes with giant fans on their back flying around. And I thought that was cool.
It was great. And then the big spinny thing on the butt.
The what would you call that? The flail?
No,
the mace?
They gave it a name too. And I just can't remember. God, we're so good with names.
But that thing was really cool. And I love how there was that weird flying squid kite that was in the sky. And you're like, what's the deal with that thing? And then when it gets caught, and then there's just like this tentacle monster on the back. I was like, that's such a fucking cool idea.
It really is.
That scene was awesome. If these action scenes were dog shit, I'd say this movie is not good. But because it's Mad Max shit, and it's like, yeah, this movie's fucking awesome.
Yeah. I wish this movie was bloodier. I kind of like. There's a lot of people who get run over by wheels or they're shot, and there's some kind of horrific deaths. But you don't see any sort of like blood splatter everywhere. I kind of wish it was a little grimier.
Yeah, the first one I felt like, well, the first one, Fury Road, it really did feel, it wasn't really bloody either,
No.
but it did feel R because I feel like there was kind of enough nudity, and I feel like there was,
Or at least
cursing.
implied,
Yeah, there was the milkmaids, and
Yeah.
then you had the wives who were practically half naked the whole movie, and
Yeah, it was definitely a sexier movie.
yeah, it was a lot more violent. I mean, Joe's jaw getting ripped off is
It's
pretty
pretty horrific, but there
Um,
wasn't a lot of that.
yeah,
in this.
but then in this,
It's just her arm, I think, is the grossest thing. And
yeah,
maybe
I mean, you had a guy who got ripped apart by like 5 different motorcycles.
sure, but it was
you
all
never
covered
saw
in
it.
dust.
Yeah, it was covered in dust.
And I guess that was Chris Hemsworth's wife, Elsa Pataki, was one of the people. She got hit with a hammer and got to do that.
No. Elsa Pataki was Furiosa's mom's seemingly girlfriend.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So she was on screen for 20 seconds
Okay.
in the very, very, very beginning. But another thing with the war rig I never really thought about, but it really is kind of just like a defending a castle that's in motion. And I never really thought about it, but like they even have ladders that they're kind of climbing up, and the war boys are basically on the top, kind of shooting bow and arrows. I mean, they're exploding grenade pikes, but it never really clicked for me that this was just like, oh, this is castle defense. That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
And I just don't think any car movie has ever done anything like the Mad Max movies, and I don't think you can. I'd like to see someone do anything beyond this. I don't know if you could, though. I don't know how you get better than Mad Max car action.
I was thinking, like, what would make this bigger? Like, that the people that are chasing them are dinosaurs, and then the war boys are apes. Because I'm on an ape kick.
Yeah.
I want to see some realistic looking gorillas and chimps on the back of the semi. So I think that's the only way you could go bigger. And I mean, you always say, like, go to space. But we've seen space battles and stuff. And then it's all CG, and it's not nearly as interesting. I don't know how you do bigger than this that isn't just bigger vehicles. You have a Howl's Moving Castle, an actual castle going down the road. Yeah, I think it's just adding monsters and stuff. Things that you can rip apart in really cool ways. But yeah, you really can't outdo it. The closest thing is like Death Proof. There's a
no. I mean, there's great car chase sequences in movies,
but you can't do anything as weird as this without establishing the world.
Yeah,
and everything else is just pretty normal cars, and
then you just be competing with like, well, they're just doing Mad Max, and you have to have that comparison. It's interesting that the Fast and Furious franchise has come out with 10 movies in 20 years or
11
whatever.
if you count Hobbs and Shaw.
Sure. And they've all made a fuck ton of money,
but they haven't done anything as cool as
like
this. The safe is really cool. Dragging a safe, that's very different. Having a bunch of like zombie cars chasing after them, that was kind of fun. But they haven't done anything that gets close to this.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem, man. Fast and Furious really should have pulled the trigger on one of the many, many world-ending devices they had to get back, and then put Fast and Furious in a, not post-apocalyptic, but apocalyptic, like in the process of breaking down.
Yeah, have Vin Diesel meet Mel Gibson at the end of Fast 12 or whatever. I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
Yeah, please don't do that.
It'd be so weird. So what do you think of we talked about the first action sequence. Let's talk about the other big one. What do you think of Bullet Town action sequence?
Pretty good. It's one I need to revisit. So much kind of happens in it. Seeing in the trailer of Chris Hemsworth like hanging off the the thing over
all-
lava with
and
all the
all the
bullets
bullets,
falling down.
yeah.
I was like, ooh, this is going to be interesting. Those bullets are going to hit, and then they're going to start firing off everywhere, or he's going to
That'd
be
be fun.
falling, and they're going to shoot him, and then he lands. I thought that was going to be how he died, but I was like, no, we just get a bulldozer in there and pick him up, and we're done with that. But Bullet Town's kind of boring compared to Gastown. Like, you know what Gastown should look like.
Yeah.
A big refinery. Bullet Town was a mine?
Yeah, or a quarry.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Wow.
And it didn't look like they were really houses. It's like, I don't see how this
Yeah, they were just living in little caves,
functions.
I'm assuming.
Yeah. I mean, the Citadel has an interesting look. Gastown is very cool looking. And I don't remember going to Bullet Town
Before?
in Mad
No.
Max game. So
Oh, in the game. Okay.
in the game, maybe I do. But Gastown is very interesting looking.
Who is in... Because in Fury Road, we know Immortan Joe has the Citadel. The People Eater has Bullet Town, right?
Yes.
Then who's running Gastown in that one? There was another guy, right?
I don't remember. Because Gastown is taken over by Dementus in this.
Yes.
But we never see who he takes it from. It's just a guy who really likes art.
No, that was Immortan Joe's brother. They had the same white hair, and he says, like, brother, you gotta help me.
That's right.
So then after he dies, I'm assuming Immortan Joe put someone else in charge, and that person is in Fury Road because all the houses come together. But I just don't remember who that character is. It's like, all I remember is, the People Eater had the big cankles and the nipples and the nose, but like then there's another one. Maybe I'm misremembering, but yeah, Bullet Town could have been a little more interesting looking, but I do like the action sequence.
Yeah. Also, speaking of not remembering I love the name, the Organic Mechanic. Such a cool name.
Yeah.
And such a great idea. It's like, of course, the people who are obsessed with like auto body shops, there'd be like a guy who's just
you're not
a doctor.
You're
a human mechanic.
A human mechanic, yeah.
But he even gets a little bit of backstory.
Yeah.
It's like, why is Organic Mechanic getting backstories? Oh, he used to work for Dementus, and now he meets up with Joe because he got put on in this trade. But it's like, why the fuck does that need to be in this movie?
I'm surprised they didn't do something where Immortan Joe is worse off, like can't breathe, and he comes in to build his apparatus.
There you go.
And it's like, well, that's the reason why we need to have him back, because we want to show how Immortan Joe is surviving this whole time. Like, nope, he already has his little thing.
Yeah, because you don't have the Organic Mechanic doing anything with Dementus, and then you don't have him, like, he's there for Immortan Joe to look after his wives and give birth to his babies because he's, like, looking for more heirs, I guess.
Yeah, offspring.
And
we get a gross baby in this one.
Yeah, conjoined.
Yeah,
or at least it's a baby with
one
like 4
head,
legs.
It looked like one head, but then 2 necks and 2 bodies grew out of it.
It's something, yeah.
Yeah. That would have been fun to see, like, grow up.
Horrific.
Because we don't see in Fury Road. There's the little person that Immortan Joe has in his crew that is, I'm assuming, one of his sons. I'm wondering why he let that one live if he was so kind of deformed.
Are you talking about the one that died inside the rig? Who was like sitting with the vegetables?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if he's necessarily one of Joe's kids. Well, I don't think. My question is, who's having kids in this world?
I think they're like
all the war boys are just his.
Maybe, no, not all of them. They're anybody you just pick up off the street. You know.
What street? There's only one road, and it's furious.
the road, yeah. Let's see.
But more once again, ultimately it doesn't really matter. But I would just love to see how these people came into power and why war boys are like so into the idea of it just seems like if you look at apes and you have Proximus Caesar and he met this human and this human reads him books and that got him into Roman history and that's why he calls him like he kind of is running a kingdom. Like it's so simple, it's all there.
Yeah.
But then you just have Immortan Joe and it's like war boys like, well, is he really into Norse mythology? And he's like, there's Valhalla, but you guys need to worship vehicles because they're all that's like, there's bits and pieces you kind of put together, but it's just like I I just want more, you know?
Because I think they say something like it's 40 years after the decline of the world. So maximum like 60 years from the end to now. How do we get to that point?
Yeah.
Who decided, like, you know what? I'm going to be a crazy dictator and I'm going to make up this crazy lore and everyone's just going to believe in me. And why is there an oil rig in the middle of nothing? Why did you pick the Citadel to grow your food of all places? You know, you would think there would be like deep cave systems that they're living in, but like, were you a park ranger at the time and you knew that this was fertile land and had water and stuff? So, because I think that's the Book of Eli. What's his name? Gary Oldman.
God, Gary Oldman was in
Book of Eli. Yeah,
Jesus.
he's running these cave systems that had water, and he remembered it because his dad took him there when he was a kid. So when the world fell, he knew where to go to get water, and that's how he came into power. But I think there's still more stories we can tell. We don't know what the collapse of the world was.
Yeah.
We don't know what life is like in the Green Place. We know the Green Place is gone between this movie and Fury Road. We don't know what happened there. So there has to be some other roaming bands of baddies out there that probably took down.
Up.
Or it could have been a natural thing, yeah. We don't know how Immortan Joe came into power and all these people started everything. So,
and don't get me wrong, I don't need like another prequel story that shows Immortan Joe's rise to power. It's just you could give me hints throughout this movie, and it made it more interesting and more like make me more invested in Furiosa and Immortan Joe and their stories. And like I thought they were going to have a relationship that was just like we're going to team up so we can take down because Dementus is causing us problems, and you bring me his head, I'll make you my new Praetorian. But there's none of that. It's like doesn't even exist anymore.
I'm surprised there isn't a scene like in Apes where Proximus has Noah sit down and have dinner with them and just kind of explains his whole deal.
Yeah.
You would think he would have that with Furiosa. Hey, you spent so much time with them. I need to know everything about this guy. Takes her under his wing and teaches her everything she knows.
Yeah. Any character interaction is so minimal and so fast and so like, yep, and we're on to the next thing, with the exception of Dementus and Furiosa, but they're not really on. They don't really like. Anya Taylor-Joy is such a good actress, and she doesn't talk much in this.
No, 30 lines of dialogue.
It's the Chris Hemsworth Dementus show, and he's great.
Yeah.
But I just would have enjoyed, I think, if we're gonna do a movie with that's more character and story focused, you gotta give me something to work with, other than just Dementus.
Yeah.
But I'm done ripping it, or as
ripping
they
into
say,
it,
or as they say in Australia, a real ripper into it. I don't know.
That wasn't a bad Australian accent.
I actually hung out with some Australians yesterday.
Oh yeah.
My wife, she knows people from Australia, and they visit every 7 years or something like that.
Okay.
And they were great people, and they drank a lot of alcohol. But anyway, I just wanted to ask them like Mad Max stuff, but then I just felt like, is that like offensive?
Yeah, it may be, but like when you hear Chris Hemsworth talking about it, like, oh yeah, I was raised on these movies. Like that, it was besides like Crocodile Dundee. What else came out of Australia for pop culture?
Steve Irwin.
That's
also
a little,
a crocodile guy.
That's a little later, but yeah, it was Mad Max. Kind of helped put Australia on the map when it comes to indie filmmaking and cultural things.
But anyway, they're really nice guys.
Yeah, Australians seem like the coolest guys. They seem like if you want to drink and get into trouble, hang out with an Australian.
If you're Australian, let us know if you want to drink and get into trouble. So is there anything else we really want to say? I'll say I'd love to see George Miller make more movies. This dude's almost 80 years old, and he's still making this shit, which is pretty cool.
Did you see his last one, the 3,000 Days of Longing? Is that what it was? The Genie movie?
Yeah. No, I didn't see it.
I've heard such mixed things of, oof, he followed up Fury Road with this. What a stinker. And then other people say, this is kind of low-key amazing. So
I think
I don't think it's on the stream.
Yeah,
or anything
I wouldn't be
yet.
surprised if, he's not necessarily the greatest storyteller, but in terms of like visual filmmaking, he's one of the best.
Yeah.
Because there's like no bad shots in this movie.
No.
There's some CGI that could use some work.
It's definitely it stands out more than it did in Fury Road,
For sure.
and especially like the speed up. Like you see him like speed up the film, and like people are kind of like Benny Hill, like everyone's moving a little bit too quick. But I don't care. It's his stylistic choices. He knows he could have taken more time and worked on it if he wanted to, but I don't care.
Another thing I would like to point out is the use of, and I think I mentioned this before whenever we talked about Mad Max, is this movie could have looked so boring, but like they really bump up the color in these movies, which I fucking love. Like the movie opens with green leaves and that peach, and it's just like just so bright and vibrant, and I loved it. And just the sky's very, very blue, and this movie is obviously very like orange and yellow and desert colored, but by no means is it like ever boring looking.
No.
And so like big ups to the colorists on this film. If that's
the color grading.
The color grading, yes, thank you. But yeah, direction excellent, visuals excellent, and I had a good time from start to finish.
Yeah.
But just wanted a little bit more from my characters and my story.
Sure.
But B+.
Yeah, I think
Go see it.
I think I gave it an A- because like it deserves it, even if maybe it doesn't reach the highest of highs.
Okay.
I think it still deserves the praise. What would you like to see George Miller do next? If he says, I'm done with this Mad Max stuff.
Babe 2.
He did Babe 2.
Babe 3.
Pig in Space.
Babe Fury Road. Let's see. What would I like to see him do?
Because I don't want to necessarily see him go simpler. Oh, let's tell a small story about a boy in love.
Yeah. I mean, what a weird filmmaking career of Happy Feet and Babe and then
Mad
Max Saga. Yeah. I mean, part of me doesn't want to see him leave this world because I want to see more awesome shit.
Because if he leaves it, someone else is going to pick it up, and they're going to try to replicate it, and it's not going to do it justice.
Yeah. Well, I think what they'll do is they'll focus on character and story and kind of make that interesting, but then the action won't be there. And you're like, well, then this isn't a Mad Max movie.
Exactly.
And that'll be the problem. So,
I mean, I think if he was a little bit younger, and they could have put him on a Fast and Furious. And so, like, what can you do with modern cars? What would you do to make this so interesting, but you can't lean on the aesthetic of apocalyptic? I think that would be fun. Or you give him a Jurassic World. Especially if you.
I don't know if I want him to do franchise stuff. This is
his franchise, and just stick to that.
I mean, Cameron kind of got two, but Cameron got out of Terminator because he just did the first two, and then he did Avatar. So Avatar feels more his thing because they made a bunch of Terminators. Like, there's only ever been George Miller's Mad Max movies.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think I'd like to see him do something original, but I think I'll say that I'd like to see George Miller's version of Silent Night, the John Woo movie.
Oh,
where,
okay.
I could see him doing something small like that, where like it's still a revenge story, it's still a super cool action movie, but not a total piece of shit.
Yeah.
Not saying I want him to do that movie, but something small-esque, but still make it like interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him like how Guy Ritchie took the King Arthur tale and went crazy.
Yeah.
Let him do something in a period piece. Samurais, Vikings, whatever it is, let him do that.
Yeah, I could see George Miller's Vikings or something. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, unfortunately, this movie is not making its money at like $30 million opening weekend, one of the worst Memorial Day weekends in 30 years. It's crazy.
I think the mistake was waiting 9 years to do it, but
yeah, but
I mean, you would say that, but it's like you waited 30 years to do Fury Road, and it's killed at the Oscars.
If we were getting these like every 4 years, it would feel less special. But yeah, maybe 9 years is a bit long. but that stings. But next week there's like nothing coming out. I was just looking. There's like an anime, and the In a Violent Nature is supposed to be out next week, and I think one of our theaters will probably get it. That is, unless it's a limited release, and then it's another week before it comes out. So hopefully, having a lighter weekend, hopefully the word of mouth will go out, and it'll be number one again, and it'll make more money on a second week. Here's hoping, because even though Fury Road made close to 400 million, it really wasn't a super profitable movie. It just became kind of a cult legend, and just a good ass movie. And this one,
I think
it's not going to really make its money back.
It's kind of got stuff going against it too, in terms of like it's 2.5 hours, where Mad Max was like a type 2. It's pretty much not considered as good as the first one, even though I'd happily put them like around the same level. And it's just also like kind of like all the Mad Max movies have always been kind of weird. It's not necessarily like a good date movie.
No.
This is definitely a movie for, film fans, but if it's not connecting with general audiences, I don't know. Hopefully it builds word of mouth, but I think the word of mouth is going to be like, yeah, I liked it, but it's not as good as Fury Road, and people are just going to go, okay, well then I'll just wait for it to hit streaming.
Yeah, frickin' Fall Guy, you could already get it on demand. That was like in theaters 2 weeks, and then boom, you could buy it from home. And so everybody just has this mentality of why bother going to the theaters? It's just going to come to streaming.
But this is a movie you should see in theaters.
Absolutely. I saw it in an IMAX, and it was great.
Whenever the cars revved, it just like vibrate your seat?
No, it really wasn't all that loud. They did have the like 4D box special shaky seat edition, but I didn't really want to experience that. Like my second viewing, I would do something like that, but it's also kind of far away. I'm not driving all the way up there to do it again. And besides shaking, there's supposed to be wind. Okay, that makes sense. And then there's water. There's not a lot of water in this movie.
That's kind of the point of these movies.
So when do you spray the water? And I saw a tweet saying it's when Piss Boy is pouring his piss into the radiator. Like that would just take me out of the movie. Like, oh, I know that's just water, but that really makes me think he sprayed me with piss.
That'd be so funny. Oh man, I think Dementors should have had a bunch of piss boys. And so it would have been the War Boys versus the Piss Boys. Like, that's a 40-day war of just like, one's lobbing grenade spikes and the other one's lobbing piss bombs.
Hey, that's what they call like when truck drivers piss in a water bottle and then throw it out. They're called the yellow grenades. So makes sense.
There it is.
All right. Well, next week, like I said, who knows? So it may be this meets that or something like that. We'll see.
We love doing those.
Yeah. If In a Violent Nature comes out, I'm absolutely seeing that. And as someone who doesn't give a shit about horror movies, I've heard nothing but good things about this one. And if it comes to us, if you could try to see it.
It's supposed to be a Shudder movie, right?
Yeah, but it's always a couple of weeks before it gets like Late Night with the Devil is now on Shudder.
Oh, okay.
So it would take some time. So I guess
if we get it, I will see it.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
But I'm not driving to see it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
No, I guess. Well, very, very last scene. Where do you think this movie should have...
We didn't talk about the final death.
Oh, yeah. Well, we got to talk about the final death and then like the very, very last scene. Like, okay. So... Furiosa, the Jack dies, the big rig's all fucked up, the war is still going on, and she makes her arm. She gets this car from Chumbucket and goes out to stop Dementus and catches up to him and yada yada yada, and they have this conversation, and she ultimately gets her revenge. We kind of see a montage of like, is it because we do have a narrator in this movie,
which is so different, and title cards too. This is like in chapters.
This is where I would see the Kill Bill comparison.
Okay.
Yeah, and we see some fun ways where she could have killed him. Was it just a gunshot to the back of the head? Did she drag him behind the car?
Which I would have been fine with either of those.
Yeah.
Any death is kind of a relief, I think, if you live in this world. Just kill me.
But throughout this whole movie, she had this seed that she kept with her that her mom gave her. And it was the Chekhov's gun of the movie. And I kept forgetting about it, even though the movie constantly reminded you that she had it. I like that she kept it like in her
Wrapped
hair.
in her hair.
And no one knew she had it. And it turns out that she planted it in this guy's body and just grew a tree. I don't know how you could survive, but that doesn't matter. It's just a cool thing in the movie.
Because it's also just one of those, like, maybe this happened. We don't know for sure. Yeah.
But I do love the idea that Immortan Joe's great enemy is alive and constantly tortured by the peach tree that's growing in his citadel.
Yeah, being kept alive,
very
and
cool.
fed off of.
Very heavy metal.
Yeah. And one other thing that I thought, it was so short, but when she wakes up without her arm and she's in like the underground pit of dead bodies, and they're scraping the bugs out of dead wounds so they can have something to eat. And that old lady's just like, come stay with us. You'll have a good life. Like, no, it stinks in here.
What are you talking about? You guys are eating people or eating the maggots off of people. And it's like, I can't imagine living in that world.
No, I would not survive. I would die.
Most people would not.
Yeah.
I don't know how anyone retains muscle mass. I mean, I guess if you eat people, I guess that could be a thing.
Yeah, fucking Erectus is way too big to be living in the apocalypse.
But, I mean, he had a good steady diet of like fruits and vegetables.
Sure,
and
he was up on the higher...
ate meat somewhere.
Yeah.
There's probably some decent... they probably kept birds and chickens and had eggs, you know? I feel like...
And the apes raised falcons to fish for them.
So yeah. Who cares?
It's science fiction. Who gives a shit?
So anyway, we get to the final scene where it's just kind of... It rolls right into Fury Road, and they have the wives lookalikes. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like it was totally unnecessary. This is probably my least favorite part of the movie. And it's like... ultimately, it means nothing. And I get why. It's like, okay, you guys... We're now... here. We're caught up to Fury Road. This is where the movie takes. Yeah. But I didn't need to...
Then they show Fury Road over the credits.
Yeah.
Why?
But my thing is, it's like, okay, well, yes, Furiosa was going to be a wife, but she escaped and came back to save the wives. But she doesn't have any real connection, or she doesn't speak to any of them really. There's no... Like, I wanted her to build... It just seems like the only thing that's connecting us is that we're women. I wanted them to be like, no, I don't know. I just needed her to have a relationship with anybody. Yeah. And the one relationship she did have with Jack was so, like, uninteresting. Like, anytime she did anything, it just really didn't feel like it meant anything. With the exception of killing Dementus, but... That's like the whole point of the movie. Yeah. Because
she gets...
It just seems tacked on. Like, oh, now she's going to go save the wives. It's like, why does she fucking care about these people?
Yeah. Since there was no connection, they really... Because then that makes it seem like Anya Taylor-Joy is Charlize Theron, where I still feel like she's a younger version. There's still a 10-year gap between...
I heard that they digitally put Charlize, like that was Charlize at the
very end,
or like it was either her or they just kind of like digitally put her in with some like unused footage from the first movie, which is like fine, but like that doesn't mean anything to me. Like, why does she like connect with me?
Having a little time of her being with the wives, getting that first bath and being treated nicely would have been nice to see, and then she sees that they get dragged away so they can be impregnated, and sees the shit they have to go through, even though they got it kind of good compared to other people.
Yeah. And that's another movie right there.
And then you leave that, so by the time she comes back to Immortan Joe and sees one of them being abused, you kind of just like focus on her face for a little bit, and then we're done. We don't need to see her sneaking them into the war rig or anything like that. The connecting it to Fury Road is just... It's a bit much. We don't need to go directly up to the start of that movie.
Yeah, I think the end of the movie should have been, you saw the tree coming from Dementis, and then you just see her get in the rig and then just like drive away, cut to credits. That would have been totally fine.
Yep.
And but adding the Fury Road shit at the end, I did not care for.
If you want to have an extra comic that shows that after she came back and she was successfully running this rig for a few years and grew close to the women and blah blah blah, and now she wants to liberate them, but because she had no relationship with them, you're right. Just because it was we're women, I need to liberate you.
Yeah, I mean, valid reason.
100%.
But
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean I don't want character development.
As a story, that's not enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now we're really done.
Done.
Nothing next week. Maybe we'll see. We'll get back to you. So if you want to get in contact with us, we are at WRPLpodcast@gmail.com. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Threads. Yeah, I think that's all of them. And hit us up with all your questions, comments, and concerns. As always, I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve, and we'll see you on the Fury Road.